Welcome to Puget Sound history. Many watercraft have navigated the Puget Sound, but none with the unique history of the steamer Beaver, or Old Beaver as she was known by some. At just 101 feet 9 inches long and weighing in at 109 tons, she certainly wasn't the biggest ship made. With her twin-side lever Bolton and Watt steam engines rated at 35 horsepower each, she certainly wasn't the fastest. So what made this little ship so important? For the answers, we must travel to Blackwall Yard, England. The Blackwall Yard section of London had been making ships for 198 years when Beaver was built. Built for the Hudson Bay Company by Wigham and Green and constructed of English oak, African oak, teak, and greenheart, she was copper fastened and sheathed. May 25th, 1835, with over 150,000 people in attendance, including King William IV as well as other royalty, a duchess christened her with the name she would have her whole life. With Captain David Home at the helm, on August 29th, Beaver left for a new world, one that had never seen a steamship. The Columbia, built at the same time, would sail with and see them safely on their trip. Equipped with sails for the ocean journey, she had not yet seen her first taste of steam. They would have not had room to bring the amount of fuel needed to make the trip, as well as concerns at the time of the safety of steam. She rounded Cape Horn at the bottom of South America and stopped next to Chile at the Juan Fernandez Islands, home to the island Robinson Crusoe. The islands were an important trade stop, the only stop to get the fur from Juan Fernandez fur seal. They were hunted almost to extinction. Next stop was in the Sandwich Islands, now referred to as the Hawaiian Islands, Fort Honolulu to be precise. The Hudson Bay Company had just opened an outpost there in 1834. They traded lumber and salt salmon from Fort Vancouver, Oregon Territory, to the Hawaiian Islands for salt, molasses, sugar, and coffee. Beaver's 163-day trip from England came to an end when she anchored off Fort Vancouver, Oregon Territory, on April 10, 1836. Once at Fort Vancouver, the engine was assembled and the 13-foot in diameter paddle wheels were mounted. Beaver was a side-wheeler, meaning a wheel on both sides. To turn, one needs to kill power to one wheel. Her boiler was designed to burn either wood or coal and had to be changed out every 7 years due to saltwater corrosion. On May 16, 1836, the steam engine was fired up for the first time, and Beaver gained her spot in history as the first steam-powered vessel on the west coast of North America. She would go on to be the first at many things, including first steamer in the Puget Sound and in the Pacific Ocean. Beaver made its home for 10 years in Fort Vancouver, operating as a fur trading post. With her 11-foot deep hold, she moved traded goods between the Columbia River and Russia, America, which is now Alaska. The little steamer really ate the fuel. On its first trip north, it went 230 miles, which took between 12 and 14 hours. It burned up 40 cords of wood, which took 6 men 2 days to cut. Beaver played roles in the establishment of coal mines at Fort Rupert and later in 1853 Nanaimo. In the 1840s, they found coal on Vancouver Island, Canada, thanks to a local native, so wood was no longer used. Beaver burned about 1 ton of coal an hour to maintain a speed of 6 knots or 7 miles per hour. James Douglas of Hudson Bay Company, concerned about America's claim to the region, sent Beaver to scout for a new fort location north of the 49th parallel. In 1843, Douglas hopped aboard Beaver and headed to New Caledonia, now known as British Columbia. There, the nearly 30-man crew helped to build Fort Victoria. In 1846, just 10 years after Beaver arrived on the west coast, the Oregon Treaty was signed, establishing the boundary between the United States and Great Britain's Canadian territories. Fort Vancouver was no longer under British control. The Hudson Bay Company, with Beaver's help, moved its headquarters to Fort Victoria. In 1853, Beaver was joined by her twin, Otter, a more powerful propeller steamship. More on her in another video. After Otter showed up, Beaver was just used to transport cargo and passengers for a few years and then sat idle. Chief Leschi, war chief of the Nisquallies, was a wanted man, and in 1856 he was seen at the fort. Beaver, along with Captain Keyes and his company of soldiers, went to capture him and bring him to Fort Steilacoom. As Beaver approached the shore, Leschi moved his warriors into place. Beaver could only unload groups of 3 or 4 at a time in a small rowboat. It was unsafe as the 4 cannons that had originally been on the Beaver had been removed. The steamer returned to Steilacoom empty-handed. During the Fraser Canyon Gold Rush of 1858-59, Beaver helped the British keep control of British Columbia. When the population in the area swelled to over 40,000 in 1 month, she ferried the governor and other officials back and forth between Vancouver Island and British Columbia. The Royal Navy, under the command of Lieutenant Daniel Pender, chartered the Beaver to survey the British Columbia coastline in 1862. She also provided assistance to the Royal Navy at Butte Inlet during the 1864 Chilcotin War. In 1874, Hudson Bay Company sold Beaver to British Columbia Towing and Transportation Company for $17,500. After being retrofitted, she towed barges, log booms, and sailing vessels. In 1888, Beaver was licensed to carry passengers. July 25, 1888, George Merchant, Captain David Simmons, Chief Engineer, and Charles Johnson, mate, steamed out of Burrard Inlet at Prospect Point in Vancouver's Stanley Park and ran aground on rocks. A plaque and her boiler now commemorate the site. The company was formed to raise, repair, and take her to the Chicago World's Fair, but before they could, the steamer Yosemite passed too close, causing the water to rise and smash her back onto the rocks, sinking her forever. July 1892. The wreckage was then pilfered by many people wanting a souvenir. Many people in the area picnicked at the wreckage site. Some people turned the scrap copper and bronze into coins, spoons, and other items shown here. This piece of oak is from a handrail. Note the square handmade nails. Large pieces of timber from the hull were made into canes, gavels, picture frames, and other items and sold. One cane was given to a visiting policeman from Spokane in 1895 when he was visiting Victoria. The Vancouver Maritime Museum houses a collection of Beaver remnants, including the boiler and 2 drive shafts for the paddle wheels. A lot has changed in the 48 years Beaver operated. When she came up the West Coast for the first time, San Francisco was the biggest settlement of white men, with 50 people. In 1892, when she sank, San Francisco had 325,000. Portland, which was hunting ground for Fort Vancouver, now had 70,000 people. It is a shame she could not have been saved, but the legacy and the region she helped shape will remain. Please, if you like this video, click like. If you'd like to see more in the future, click subscribe. Again, I know these are not perfect professional videos. I may have mispronounced something. I may have made a couple mistakes that I'm not going to go back and edit due to time restraints. But all the facts are accurate, which is the most important part. Now get out there and make your own history.